Now, as Young Lives, we've got a commitment to doing both survey and qualitative information, in-depth discussions with the families. We also talk to children. We do interviews and we do focus groups with children to try to explore how they view their lives, how they view issues that affect them. I guess the one thing that I would really highlight from that is how important being part of the family is to children, and children are very savvy at understanding what's going on in those households. They may experience and report poverty in different ways, but they're really keen and it's a very important part of how they experience their childhoods, that they're part of the family unit and they're supporting the family, particularly when families are under stress. So we see children caring for their siblings, lots of childcare going on. We see families acting as units, and so I'd emphasise that when you're thinking about policy and you're thinking about how children experience poverty, you need to be looking in the round. You need to be thinking about how children are experiencing it and how they're also reflecting the circumstances of their household, so looking at things in the round. Andreas earlier today used the phrase magic bullets. I think we need to be cautious about magic bullets, and I don't think we should be putting all of our investments in one basket. Though policymakers are right to ask that question, those who are concerned about children's conditions need to emphasise that children's lives are complicated. The one thing I do want to talk about is anti-poverty policy in that regard, because when you look at the range of service interventions, you mentioned education, you mentioned health, there's often a link with poverty there. And so policies that help support children, support households, and to reduce the impact and the pressures on families from those socioeconomic conditions also have a payoff in supporting those areas. So I suppose it's a plea. Let's not look at it in terms of one thing will have that effect, because often children's lives are complicated. One aspect of their lives is going to affect all the other aspects of their lives. So we need to take balanced choices, but we also need to know that when you're investing in children, it's a range of issues, but I would emphasise this poverty point. It's underlying a lot of the issues that are affecting children today.
I would have to add to what Paul said that, of course, I agree with that the issue is multi-dimensional and quite complex and ambiguous, so you cannot actually have a single right answer to a single right question, which means that we have to be very careful on taking away from the evidence particular prescriptions actually for designing particular policies. So my major point is that policymakers should be aware that people actually also change their behavior in response to policies, which means that some policies may actually they have an objective to lift people out of poverty, and if you like, target areas that the evidence suggests are very effective. But behavioral response of people may actually cancel this, the effectiveness of policy. I can give you one example that has been found from evidence around different kind of low and middle income countries, when it is found that in some cases governments invest vastly in school inputs like improving teachers' qualifications and school infrastructure, it seems that at the same time parents reduce the amount of investment they do at home and the amount of time they spend by actually stimulating their children in the home environment. So I mean, policymakers in general and people that make this kind of decisions should actually be aware that there are behavioral responses that may cancel policies or may actually reinforce sometimes policies that target particular areas. So we should be very careful in the kind of description of particular kind of prescription for policies.